Hey everyone, welcome back to CodeMaarg. In the previous videos, we learned what are DCL commands, what is grant, what is revoke, why do we really need it and all. In this video, we will see what are TCL commands, what is commit, what is rollback, what are save points, how to begin a transaction, how to end a transaction, and why do we actually need a transaction and all, okay? Let's get started. Okay, now that we have learned what are DDL commands, DCL commands, DML commands, now it's time for us to understand about TCL commands. What is TCL and all those stuffs. For that, let me explain you all with a scenario. Imagine I'm transferring 1000 rupees from my bank account to my friend's account. Imagine I'm transferring 1000 rupees from my bank account to my friend's account. So what happens internally is two steps happen. Step 1, 1000 rupees is deducted from my account. Step 2, 1000 rupees is added to my friend's account. What happens? Two steps happen. Step 1, 1000 rupees is deducted from my account. Step 2, 1000 rupees is added to my friend's account. Now, what if money is deducted from my account and doesn't reach my friend's account? What if money is deducted from my account and will not reach my friend's account? What if the system crashes in between? That would be a disaster, right? So what happens in banking system is either all the operations, all the transactions should be successful or none of the operations should happen at all. Meaning all operations should happen. What are the two operations that are happening in our case? 1000 rupees is deducting from my account and reaching my friend's account. So either both should happen or none of them should happen. 1000 rupees, if it is not reaching my friend's account, it should not be deducted from my account as well. So either all operations, all transactions should happen or none of the transactions should happen. So this concept is called as transaction. And the SQL commands that control these transactions are called as TCL, Transaction Control Language. What is TCL? It is Transaction Control Language. What is TCL? It is Transaction Control Language. So what does these commands do? These are the commands that control transactions and are called as TCL. So what is TCL? Transaction Control Language. So what does these commands do? These are the commands that control transactions. These are the commands that controls transactions. What is it used to? It is used to manage transactions in a database. It is used to manage transactions in a database. It is used to manage transactions in a database. Now there are these points that we have to look at. After looking at these points, we'll go to the example of how transaction control language works. Now first let's understand these points. What are these? It says a transaction is a group of statements that are treated as one logical unit of work. What is it? A transaction is a group of statements. In our case, in the example that I gave, what are the statements? 1000 rupees being deducted as one statement, 1000 rupees being added to my friend's account as another statement. So both are considered as a group. It need not be just two, it can be multiple statements, but in our example it was just two. So a transaction of those statements is a group of statements that are treated as one logical unit of work. So both those transactions should be considered as one unit of work, meaning if work happens, all those should be successful. If it fails somewhere, then none of them should be successful. So if everything succeeds, we save it permanently. If everything succeeds, we save it permanently. If something fails, we undo everything. If something in the middle fails, we undo everything. So this is very important. If everything succeeds, we save it permanently. If something fails, we undo everything. So this is the core idea of transaction control language. Now we have, what are the differences between without using transaction control language and with TCL. What are the difference? Let's see. It says partial updates can happen without TCL. What does partial updates means? In our example that we took, technically the system performs two operations, as I said: deduct 1000 rupees from my account and add 1000 rupees to my friend's account. Now suppose the system successfully deducts 1000 from my account, but before it adds to my friend's account, the server crashes. Now only one operation is completed. That is called as partial update. So partial updates can happen without TCL, and with TCL it cannot happen. You'll see why it cannot happen when I go through the example in the PostgreSQL. But for now, let's understand without TCL what all happens. So data becomes inconsistent is the next thing. How does data becomes inconsistent? In my account 1000 rupees will be less because it is deducted. 1000 rupees is not added to my friend's account, so that 1000 rupees is missing somewhere, right? It is deducted from my account and has not reached to my friend's account. That 1000 rupees is missing somewhere. So that is why we say the data of it is inconsistent. Money has disappeared. Where has it disappeared? We don't know. So that is called as data inconsistency. That is called as data inconsistency. Can that happen with TCL? No, it cannot happen. How will it not happen in TCL? We'll see that. Next is business logic breaks. Again, if money is deducted from one account, it must be added to another. That rule is broken. That rule is called as business logic. That rule is broken. So from a business perspective, customers are going to lose their money. Trust is damaged. More importantly, the trust is damaged. Let's say I'm using some XYZ application to transfer money. If that thing happen, if a huge amount is just, let's say, deducted from my account and doesn't reach another person's account, will I be trusting that application? Will I be using that application to transfer my money? Again, no, right? The trust is broken and financial records become unreliable. So that is the reason why without TCL, business logic is gonna break. With TCL, business logics will not break. How will it not break? We'll see it later. So this is our understanding of what happens in case if we don't use transaction control language. Now that we have seen what all can happen if we don't use TCL commands, now let's see how to use those commands. Let's see how to use those commands in our database. Okay. Now, let's imagine a scenario. Obviously, I cannot query the scenario that I said you, the 1000 rupees transaction thing that I said you, because we don't have that particular database. The database that we are currently using is college database. So I'm going to give you a similar example of how TCL commands can work in this college database so you can correlate it. So what all we have? Here we have students table, we have enrollments table, and we have payments table that you all have already seen, right? Now the scenario that we are going to see now is when a student enrolls into a particular course, meaning when a student makes a payment. If you see this particular table, a student is making a payment to enroll into a particular course, right? See here, student ID 1 has made a payment of 100 rupees. Student ID 1 has also made a payment of 150 rupees on the specific dates. Why is the student making a payment? To enroll into a particular course. So if a payment ID exists in this particular table, then that student should also be enrolled in this course. Here it also says this student ID 1 has enrolled to course ID 1, student ID 1 has enrolled to course ID 2. So that is how it works, right? Now let's begin the transaction. You will have to start a transaction. Now what are we going to do is we are inserting some data to payments and also making an update to enrollments. So what are we doing? When we do a particular transaction, meaning when we pay the amount, that particular student should be enrolled as well. So now let's begin the transaction. How do you start a transaction? Using begin keyword. Using begin keyword, you're going to start the transaction. Next, I don't want to play with the already existing data, so I will create a new student. Meaning I will insert a new student. Let's say another student is joined. Insert into students table. What are the columns we have? Student ID, we have student name. Let's see what are the columns we have from this table. Name, we have join date, we have department ID, we have email. These are the columns that we have. You actually don't have to write this every time. You can just insert values into it. Values, let's say student ID of, we have 200 as Rahul. Let's say I'm gonna insert some random student ID. Okay, let's say a student called give me some name Adarsh. Adarsh has joined on date 2022-07-15. Let's say he has joined to which department? Let's say he has joined to computer science department, having an email of adarsh@gmail.com. Let's say this particular student has joined. Now, when this particular student has joined, he has to make a payment to enroll into a particular course. Now, let's say this particular student, insert into payments. This particular student, who is the student? It is Adarsh, is made a payment to join to a particular course. Payment ID, student ID, amount and payment date. Now, payment ID, what is the payment ID? We have 49 here. I'm gonna give the payment ID some random ID. Let's say 200, let's say 500, any random payment ID, but it should be unique because this is the primary key column. It is a primary key column. So who is making a payment? Adarsh is making a payment. What is the student ID of Adarsh? It is 300. It is 300. How much is he paying? Let's say he's paying $100. On which date? On the same date that he has joined. On the same date that he has joined, he is making a payment. Now he has joined to this particular course. Now he has made a payment to a particular course. Now, since he has made a payment to a particular course, that particular thing should be visible in the enrollments table as well, because he has enrolled into a particular course by making a payment. Enrollments, we have student ID, course ID, we have enroll date. What are the values that we are entering? What is the student ID of Adarsh? Here we are giving it as 300. So 300 is the student ID. For which course he has joined? He has joined to Introduction to Programming. On which particular date has he enrolled? On the same date he has joined, on the same date he has made the payment. The enrollment date is also the same. Now, a student called Adarsh has joined to this college on 2022-07 by making a payment of $100 and enrolling into a computer science Introduction to Programming course. Now, this is how we are doing. If we don't use this begin and commit here, if we don't give it as transactions, what can happen? A student can make a payment over here and will not be existing in enrollments table, because a student has made a payment but it is not present in enrollments table. That thing can happen. So using transactions should resolve that issue. Let me run this completely. It says commit successfully, query written successfully. Now, how can you check? Let me just run select star from students. Here you should be seeing Adarsh, right? If when you scroll down, you see student ID 300. Adarsh has joined on this date, and here you are given to join computer science department. He has joined to computer science department. When you do select star from payments, here also you should be seeing that Adarsh with payment ID 500 that you had given, student ID 300 is Adarsh ID. He has paid $100. On which date has he paid? He paid on 2022-07-15. If you see enrollments table, even in enrollments table, you should be seeing that he has enrolled to. See, Adarsh has enrolled to Introduction to Programming course on the same date where he had made the payment. Why do we actually need to write it inside begin and comment to make it a transaction? Because if you don't make it as a transaction, there are at times where you will have made a payment but your name will be missing from the enrollments table. Meaning your name, what does it say that if your name is missing in the enrollment table? It says that this particular student has not enrolled, but you have made a payment to it, so you should be enrolled, right? So this TCL commands lets you say that, lets you denote that either all transactions should happen, either you are making a payment and you are enrolling into a course, or no transaction should happen. You're not making a payment and you're not enrolling into any course, which is fair enough. Let's see how it can break. Okay, we saw how the transaction now can be successful. Let's make some commands fail. Let's purposefully fail this payments command and see if the students will be inserted or not. Okay, now here it is saying insert into students. We just copied the complete thing here. Let me make this student ID to be 301 and let me change this to be Amit and amit@gmail.com. Now we already have payment ID as 500, so this violates primary key constraint. So since we already have this, complete transaction should be failed, meaning students also should not be inserted. Meaning Amit should also not be inserted now, because this payment is failing, so student should also not be inserted. Let's try how this command fails. It says duplicate key violates unique constraint primary key. Payment ID 500 already exists. But now we should see if Amit is inserted or not. Because what is TCL? What is the core idea of TCL? If one transaction successfully happens, like all the transactions should successfully happen. If one of the transaction fails, none of them should happen. So Amit's student also should not be inserted. Let me do select star from students to see if Amit is inserted or not. It is saying current transaction is aborted, commands ignored until end of transaction box. So we should roll back to, I will explain what a rollback is. We should roll back for now to see if Amit is inserted or not. Now this is the students table. Let's see where Amit is. If we just scroll down, Adarsh is the last person. What is the Amit ID? Student ID of Amit is 301. Is 301 somewhere here? We don't have 301, meaning Amit is not inserted. So even though this command executes successfully, since this payment command fails, the complete transaction is gonna fail. Okay. When we just executed this command, meaning I'm again gonna run this. When I run this command, it says duplicate key violates, right? When I do select star from students now, what is it saying? It is saying current transaction is aborted, commands ignored until the end of transaction block. Meaning, this is where it is failing, and all the other commands that are after where it is failing or from where it is failing are ignored. All these, for example, enrollments command is the one that is after payments command. All these other commands that are present after this payments is ignored because you are finding an error here. Now since you are finding an error here, I will also have to revert back all the students thing that I did. I will also have to revert back all the other transactions that was done. So until and unless I do that, this select star from students or any other commands that you actually give will not work, because this complete transaction has to be rolled back. This complete transaction has to be brought to the beginning stage of where it was starting. So when I do this rollback, it says query returned successfully, meaning now I can execute the select star from students because this complete transaction was rolled back. Meaning rollback is used to undo all the changes that were made in the transaction before commit. What are the transactions that we did? We did these 3 transactions, and in these 3 transactions, this is where it failed, and it did not come to this enrollments at all, because this is where it actually failed. Now since this particular thing failed, I will also have to roll back all the transactions that were actually done. I will also have to undo all the changes that were already done. So why do we need this rollback? We need this rollback. Okay, here now it is failing because we don't have any transaction in process. But why do we actually need this rollback? We need rollback to undo all changes that are made in the transaction before commit. Undo all the changes undo all the changes that are made in a transaction before commit. Okay, now we have seen how begin and how commit works, how rollback works and all. Now let's just go through the syntax ones. How do you use TCL commands? How do you begin a transaction? First of all, how to begin a transaction? Using begin keyword. We will begin a transaction. Next, we will proceed with all the other operations that we have. In our case, we proceeded with inserting a student into the students table. Next, inserting payments, inserting enrollments. We proceeded with all the insert operations. In your case, what all operations that you want to perform, you can proceed with all the other operations. Next, you will commit it. This is an important keyword. What does commit mean? Commit command is used to save all the transactions to the database that have been performed during the current transaction. So what are the commands that you had entered here? What are the things that you wanted to do inside a transaction? It will save all those transactions to the database that has been performed during the current transaction. So that is what this commit does, and it is a very important command. Now we also saw how to undo all the changes. Let's see, we have done all those things, and if we want to undo, what should we do? We should use rollback command. So the rollback command, what will it do? It is used to undo all the transactions that have been performed during the current transaction but have not yet been committed. This is very important. It is used to undo all the changes, but it should not have been committed, meaning when we just insert this, it says duplicate key violations, and when I just run this select star from students, it says current transaction is aborted, commands ignored until the end of transaction block, meaning this particular, even this insert into students, this is also not committed yet. When does commit work? When all the transactions are successful, commit is gonna work. Now it says commands ignored until the end of transaction block. So commit is at the end, but commit will only be successful when all the other transactions over here are correctly performed. That is why I will use rollback here. Again, let's go back to our syntax. So what is rollback? Why is it used? Rollback command is used to undo all the transactions that has been performed during the current transaction but have not yet been committed. This command, this is something where it is useful for reverting a database to its previous state in case if there is an error that has been occurred. Why is it useful? It is useful for reverting the database to the previous state in case of any error occurring in the current changes that are being made. So what all things we saw? We saw how to commit, we saw how to roll back, we also saw how to begin a transaction. So these are the important commands that we had to see in the transaction control language TCL. We are left with one last thing, which is SavePoint. So we saw how to begin a transaction, we saw how to commit, meaning how to save everything, we saw how to roll back, meaning how to undo everything. Now what if I want to partially save it? Or undo partially? Let's say what if I want to undo partially? That is where the SavePoint comes into picture. We learned that rollback is going to cancel the entire transaction, but what if I don't want to cancel everything? So that is where this SavePoint comes into picture. Now let's get back to our same example, that is 1000 rupees example. So imagine I'm transferring again 1000 rupees to my friend. Step 1, what happens is deduct 1000 from my account. Step 2, what happens? Add 1000 rupees to my friend's account. Step 3, what happens? Send SMS notification. Now suppose deduction from my account works, addition to my friend's account also works, SMS sending step fails. So SMS sending step is gonna fail. Suppose, let's imagine this scenario. Do we really want to undo all the money that's been transferred just because the SMS is being failed? No, right? We only want to undo the SMS part. So that's where the SavePoint comes into picture. So SavePoint creates a checkpoint. What does this do? SavePoint is going to create a checkpoint. SavePoint is going to create a checkpoint inside a transaction. So what you can do is you can roll back to that particular point instead of cancelling the whole transaction. So what does SavePoint give you? SavePoint is going to create one checkpoint or multiple checkpoints inside a transaction where you can roll back to that particular point instead of cancelling the whole transaction. In our example, let's go to our example. Here in the same example, let's say you have begin, you have insert statements, you have commit, you have rollback, right? Let's say we'll insert a checkpoint here. How to insert a checkpoint? SavePoint and the name of the SavePoint. Let me call it as after payments. Here what can I do? I will roll back to after payments. What is it doing? It is beginning the transaction, inserting some few records. I'm saving this I'm saving this as after payments, such that if something fails after this, I can roll back to this particular state instead of rolling back the entire transaction. How to use this command? SavePoint after payments. Roll back again. If something fails, where am I rolling back to? I'm rolling back to after payments. So that is how this is going to work. I don't really know if this example will work. Let's see. I'm beginning the transaction. I inserted one row. I inserted second one. It says duplicate key violation constraint. So let me make this as 700 maybe. Insert row. Current transaction is aborted. Now since let me again begin a transaction. Let me insert this. Let me again insert this. Again duplicate violation. Let's see what are the things that are present in payments. Select star from payments. You cannot use any other command when you're inside the transaction. Okay, we already have 700. So what we'll do 800 will do. Okay, let's again begin a transaction. Let's insert this. Let's insert this. Insert successful. I'm saving now as after payments, so that if something goes wrong anywhere here, I can just get back to this after payments. Will this go wrong? I'm supposed to make something wrong in the next operation. How can I make something wrong here? Okay, instead of this, let me insert another payment. Let me give the payment ID to be 801, and for the same student he is paying, let's say, 150 rupees. Let me do it as 800. Now this step is going to fail, right? This step purposefully fails because 800 is a payment ID is a primary key, and this primary key already exists. Primary key should be unique. So I'm gonna run this, and this step purposefully fails, right? This step fails. So now instead of doing rollback, if I do rollback, all the other operations that were done undoes, like it undoes everything, right? But if I do rollback to after payment, it undoes to some point where some operations are done and saved at some point of time, right? So I'm gonna do rollback to after payments. When I do rollback to after payments, now I will do select star from students, and you should see Amit being inserted. See, Amit is inserted. So what we should understand by this is, previously when you do rollback, it rollbacks everything, but here it only rollbacks till a particular save point. Now you can see Amit being inserted into the students table. What does it denote? It denotes that all the statements that were executed before the save point was successfully executed. So we rolled back to only at a particular checkpoint. I understand that I know that this might not be a very great example to explain TCL commands, but I wanted to use the same data instead of introducing the new data, so that when we move forward, we use same data and will be familiar with this database. So yeah, if you have understood what is TCL, how all these commands work, that's great. That's great. Let me just add this one point here. How do you roll back to a specific save point? How do you do that? You will use rollback to save point name. We will use rollback to save point name. That is how we will roll back to a specific save point. How do you save it? How do you use save point? By the way, you will give us save point name. Save point name. That's how you use it. So what are the TCL commands that we have? We have begin, we have commit, we have rollback, we have save point, and we have rollback too. So these are the set of TCL commands we have. So we saw, let me just go through this. We saw DDL, we saw DML, we saw DCL, and we also saw TCL. One thing I would like to note here or bring upon here is we have select here, the select command under DML that we have here. In most textbooks and interviews, select is treated under DML. It is treated under DML. Technically, it is also called as DQL. It is also called as a DQL statement. What is DQL? What is DQL? It is data query language. It is data query language. So select is considered to be a DQL statement by some people. Okay, so DML stands for data manipulation language, right? And manipulation doesn't always means change. It can also mean retrieve. So in many academic books and even exams, select is included under DML, but there are some people who separate it as DQL because we only retrieve data. So technically, select is considered to be a part of DML and standard like SQL classification and all those stuffs. But conceptually, many people categorize it separately as DQL because it only retrieves data. So be aware of this particular thing, that it can play between being a DML and DQL. So this is what we saw: DDL, we saw DML, we also saw a version of DQL, we also saw DCL, and at last TCL. So these are the different types of commands that exist. In the next video, we're going to see the different type of constraints that exist. If you've understood what's in this video, like, share, and subscribe for more content. Don't forget to click on the bell icon there to receive notifications. Thanks for watching this video till the end. Bye bye. Never stop learning. We will catch up in the next one.